Okay. So welcome everyone. It's a real pleasure, an honor to share with you this evening the Enneagram, and it's such a real pleasure to have people from Mauritius and from the US and the UK, some of my fellow teammates from my systemic coaching have joined, so I'm really pleased about that. And so we're going to be together for an hour and a half. And probably we'll only really touch the tip of the iceberg on this topic. It's such an amazing topic that has such deep dimensions. So an hour and a half will only really touch the tip of the iceberg. So what I'll do is, before I actually begin, I'll also introduce to you Chona. So Chona works with me at New Beginnings. So Chona, would you like to say hello?
Hi everybody, welcome. We are very happy to see you during this learning circle, and I look forward to hear more knowledge and learning from you all, guys.
Okay. So I know most of you, but perhaps that for those of you who I don't know, perhaps those who will be watching the recording, my name is Wyman. Even when I work with New Beginnings, I'm a coach and a trainer, and the Enneagram is actually one of my passions. So this is the first time I did this as a public webinar, but I've done it for companies before, so it's a real pleasure to be here. So I'm going to share my screen now and start the presentation. So this is the Enneagram. Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay. So we're going to be, I'm going to be sharing with you about the Enneagram. And for me, the Enneagram has been like looking in a mirror. So this is a mirror. And it's been really mirroring back to me my personality type. So I use the Enneagram first and foremost for getting to know myself better in much more depth. So that was the way that I came across the Enneagram. So in our time together, these are some of the frames. So I'll only be giving an overview of the Enneagram in terms of a self-development tool, but also how you can use it with teams. And there will be moments during the sessions where I invite you all to participate. We'll be having some breakout rooms too. And as you can see that I'm actually recording the session, and there are people who could not attend today, so I'll be sending the recording to them. And also just to outline that we all maintain the confidentiality in the session that we have tonight. And also those of you who are watching the recording to also maintain the confidentiality in the things that we say in this session. I also invite you to use your camera, and if you have any questions, please stop me or use the chat box to actually post your questions. And this is all a learning opportunity for all of us, even for me, even preparing for this session today, my learning about the Enneagram. I'm constantly learning, and I always, whenever I do these sessions, I'm constantly learning from what people say about their learnings as well too. So just before we actually kick off into the main part, I just want to ask you just to take a pause. I'm sure those of you in Mauritius, you may have come from work, you've rushed back home, and perhaps you've just had your dinner and you've rushed to this webinar. And I just want you to, for just 2 minutes, to take a pause. And I just invite you just to sit back in your chair. And we're just going to take a moment. And I want you to sit back in your chair and take 3 deep breaths. Deep breath in and out. And in and out. And the last breath, in and out. And as you take your last breath out, just become aware of the seat beneath you, the sounds around you, the physical sensations in your body. And just in this next 30 seconds, you don't have to be anywhere or do anything except be here in this present moment. And if there are any thoughts or feelings that come up for you, just observe them, being a witness to your own thoughts and feelings. And then just bringing your attention back to your breath. So 30 seconds of just being in the present moment. And in this present moment, I want you to visualize all the important people that you connect with, the systems that you work in, and visualize your family, your colleagues, your community, your profession, ecosystem that you live in and working. And just bring those to your mind and visualize them. And I want you to ask yourself this question. What do I need to learn today for my self-development? And what do people that I serve, my colleagues, my family, the people in my community, what do they need me to learn today in this session? And lastly, what do the children of tomorrow need me to learn today? And as those answers come up for you, just bring those all together and bring your attention back to your breath and feel the chair underneath you and come back to this Zoom room. Okay, so we're back in the room. And so I want to now ask you, what is your why? Why are you here tonight? And just drop in the chat box, why are you here tonight? So what made you make the time to be here tonight? Yeah. So Anne says, would like to get to know myself better. To refresh myself on this topic. Just curious about the Enneagram, support my team presenter and learn for tomorrow, whatever got me here. I'm an insatiable learner to build my own self-awareness, Francesca, to learn new tools, discover the Enneagram video, curiosity, and own me curiosity. So thank you. Thanks. Thank you for that. I think yeah, and Nabila for your own self-development. Okay, great. So at New Beginnings, one of the models that we use is systemic development, and there are 4 elements of systemic development. The first element being on the blue circle there is self-mastery. And then below that, the green circle is relational mastery, how you connect with people. Leadership mastery is who are you as a leader? What skills do you need as a leader? And then the 4th element is systemic integration, is having wider perspectives so that you can connect the systems that you work in and be able to synergize those systems together. And so the Enneagram here relates to the self-mastery, really getting to understand yourself better, and also in regards to relational mastery, because by understanding the personalities of the people that you work with will really allow you to make those connections and relate to people in more depth. So that's how we at Uni Beginnings use the Enneagram. So self-mastery, there are many elements of self-mastery that I could talk about. I don't have the time to talk about that today, but just in essence, this is a saying from Lao Tzu, and perhaps Rais, could you read that for us?
Yeah. So knowing yourself is intelligence, knowing others is intelligence, sorry. Knowing yourself is true wisdom, mastering others is strength, mastering yourself is true power.
Yeah, yeah. So really mastering yourself is the power. So, and the question is, in leadership development, often that is what is missing, is actually being able to master yourself, your personality, for you to become a better leader. So this leads us on to this notion of horizontal and vertical development. So horizontal development is about adding skills and knowledge. And often this is done by experts, and it is in relation to what we think. So it's the content of what we think. Whereas vertical development is the ability to grow your thinking and act in complex, systemic, and interdependent ways. And this you do a lot through life experience and through developing yourself in your personality. And it's about how you think. Okay, it's the process of how you think. So to give an example, a simple example is if you take a smartphone, the horizontal development would be adding apps. Okay, adding apps so that you can actually do more on your phone. Whereas the vertical development is actually upgrading your operational system. So it's how you're actually operating. And that's the vertical development. Another analogy is horizontal development is about filling the cup. For leaders, it's actually transferring information to the leader and filling the cup. Whereas vertical development is about expanding the cup. It's about transforming the leader to unleash their best potential and to be their best self. So that's the actual difference. And in terms of leadership development, you do need both. But often what happens is that in leadership development, the focus is on horizontal development, which is missing the vertical development. This is where the Enneagram is an amazing tool in the vertical development. Okay, so this is another illustration. So the horizontal is what we know, so skills and new information and new knowledge, but understood from the same meaning-making platform. Whereas vertical development is transformation of how we know. So it's about the new underlying worldview understood from a new meaning-making platform. So those of you who've experienced neurosemantics know about this meaning. We as all human beings, we are all meaning makers. And so if you relating it to the NLP communication model, so those of you who've done that, it's about looking at your filters and how does those filters influence the map that we make. Okay, so the meanings that you give in relation to making the map are also the meanings of the map, and that's vertical development. So looking at the meaning that you have in regards to your own map, the stories that you tell yourself, and also in relation to the filters. So I'll go now into the Enneagram. And the Enneagram itself, the word Enneagram, the Enya means 9, and gram means symbol or something written. And there are 9 distinct styles of thinking, feeling, behaving, and each of these styles has a unique path of development. So you can see in the circle there 9 numbers that relates to the 9 distinct styles of thinking and feeling. And the research shows that we actually all born a type when neurobiologically gravitated to one type. And we actually remain that same type throughout our life, but we can actually soften or more pronounce that typology as we grow and develop. Also, the research shows that your environment and the way you were brought up, your caregivers, does actually influence also how you show up in terms of your personality. Okay. So the origins of the Enneagram, it comes from ancient origins. So 2,000, 4,000 years ago. I don't know if any of you know the Odyssey, Homer's Odyssey. So this was written thousands of years ago, and in that story, it actually tells of 9 different people that the hero actually encounters, and these actually relate to the Enneagram personality. So it has very ancient origins, and the Enneagram itself is based on ancient wisdom. So I don't have time, unfortunately, today to actually go into that. But it's related to ancient wisdom. And as you can see, the roots of the Enneagram comes from the Middle East and Asia, and it has its foundation in the Christian mystics, the Kabbals and the Sufis. And it was actually brought to the Americas by Oscar Echazo, and he studied in the Far East and in Asia, and he brought it to the US through Claudio Renano. And Claudio Renano he passed away probably only 2 years ago. And now the Enneagram is used in psychotherapy as a clinical therapy tool, in spirituality. For example, the Catholic priests, the Jesuits, who are the intellects of the Catholic Church, they use it in their priest development. It's used in education, in arts, in parenting, and it certainly helped me in my parenting to understand the personality types of my children, the personality type of my husband. So it's really an amazing tool to understand others as well as yourself. So one of the things that the Enneagram allows us to do is to really get to know your personality typology. And it's actually much more than that, because it allows you it mirrors back the architecture of your personality. So it actually gives you a structure of your ego. So there are 6 elements of your egos, and the Enneagram actually allows you to understand the ego structure. So before I knew about the Enneagram, I just thought the ego was one lump of a thing. But actually breaking it down into these 6 elements allowed me to really understand what is driving myself. So it allowed me to understand my unconscious motivations, my dreams and drives. And it also allowed me to understand my own bias and the traps that I get caught in. And it allowed me to observe that in myself. So, and this is one of the things, is being an observer. And in spirituality terms, people say the Enneagram is a sacred map to your true self, and to yourself, to your soul. So it's actually a map. It gives you a path of development to your true self. So if you see the picture on your right, you can see that here that there's the ego, and behind the ego is your true self. So as a person, you can't actually see yourself. Okay, so you can only see yourself through a mirror. So you can only observe yourself through a mirror. And so what happens is that as we grow up, we actually form this ego, which is our reflection of ourselves. And I'll talk more about the ego a bit later. And so this is what the Enneagram allows us to do, is get past the ego structure so that we can actually get to know more who is behind your ego. So it's the true self. So the Enneagram also allows us to understand our self-belief structure, what we believe us to be, the narratives that we tell ourselves that actually construct that ego. So when all of us were born, we actually didn't have an ego. We formed that ego as we grew up, and it was formed really as a survival strategy to get needs met. And part of that strategy is about getting what, as growing up, as getting back what we perceive missing in us. So there's this strategy of getting things that are missing on the outside to replace what's missing on the inside. And that's the error in the ego, is that whatever's missing inside, I can get on the outside, but that's never going to happen, because you can't get what is missing in the inside from the outside. It needs to be from within. And so we as growing up, we actually constructed this often sophisticated way of actually defending ourselves, and it becomes like a human condition, and we become so habituated in that it becomes a fixation. Okay, so I'll just illustrate this very briefly. So this morning, I went to a place with my son, who they're on holiday at the moment, and I had to park my car, but the car park was full. So, and the side of the car park, there was this green area, and there was this huge tree, and the actual underneath the tree, there were some spaces, and there were some cars parked there. And I thought, okay, I'll just go and park my car there. Well, I didn't realize when I got off the road, there was a lip between the road and the grass, and the lip was so high that when my car went over, the underneath of my car got stuck, and I was trying to get off, but because it was a gravel path, my back tires were spinning. The more I tried to get my car off, the more my back tires got stuck. And I was in my car trying to get it out, and I couldn't see what was going on. And there were some people who are coming out the car park, and they were looking at my car, and they're saying, "Oh, if you turn it that way and go forward, then you could get out." But me being in my car, I couldn't see that. And the more I was trying, the more stuck I was becoming. So having an observer allowed me to get unstuck. So this is exactly what the Enneagram allows you to do, is become an observer of how you get stuck. So the foundation of the Enneagram comes from the Eastern practice of self-observation. And it's a self-observation of your thoughts, your feelings, your somatic experiences, and behaviors. So it's about being able to observe yourself having those thoughts and feelings and somatic experiences. And once you're able to self-observe, to see yourself having the thoughts, you'll be able to understand yourself a lot better and understand your motivation for your behavior. And once you are able to understand that, you get to this awareness and being present to your ego. And when you're present to your ego, you don't need to actually, like me, I was trying more and more, and my back tires are getting more and more stuck. Once you're present to that, then you can actually have a different option. So in a bit later, I'll give you a tool for you to be able to do that, to be more present to your own thoughts and feelings, and your patterns. And that allows you then to really be able to show up to your true self. So the uses of the Enneagram for coaches, you can use it as a coaching tool, but it's not a quick fix. There's a lot of work that your client needs to do on themselves, and it does take practice, because you're so habituated in your patterns. And one of the key things is to unlearn those habituated patterns for you to learn new ones. So getting an upgrade on your operating system. So it does take practice to be able to do that. And it's also used in regards to communication, interpersonal skills, in relationship, in conflicts, in marital relationships. So I've used that in relationships between couples, in teamwork, decision making, strategic thinking, and leadership. So these are some of the areas that you can actually use it. Okay. So also Enneagram is used in emotional intelligence development. So not only intrapersonal, but interpersonal development. So knowing yourself, knowing your emotions, so having a better relationship to your own emotions, but also being able to work with people that perhaps trigger you. So really being able to work with a variety of people. So I'm just going to ask you to do a little exercise, because I've been talking a lot. So I'd like you to think about an important decision that you've made, whether it's recently or before, and Chona's going to put you into pairs and into breakout rooms. And one of the things I'd like you to do, and this is just a really quick conversation, is talk about that decision by placing your hand on your head. Talk about the decision. Place your hand on your heart and talk about that decision. And then place your hand on your gut, your instinct, and talk about that decision. And just become aware of what comes up for you. Okay. So Chona, I don't know if you want to take a screenshot of this before I stop sharing.
Which one?
Oops, sorry. Oops. Okay. So Chona is going to put you all into breakout rooms we'll just put you into breakout rooms for 5 minutes. So just like 2 minutes each, and just quickly talk about the decision from your head, from your heart, and from your gut. Okay, so Chona, are you ready?
Ready. Okay.
Okay, so we have 13 people. So what you can do is 6 rooms, and someone can stay in the main room with us. Yeah. Okay, great.
I have 5 here.
Great. Great, thanks, Chona. Okay, so we have, okay, so we have people, there's some people who dropped off in the meantime. Okay, so how did that go? Francesca, where's Francesca and David? Oh, they disappeared.
Still.
They're not, okay. It's strange. Okay, so how did that go? Oh, there they are. Okay, so welcome back. I thought we had lost some people there. Okay, welcome back. So how did that go?
What was really interesting is that the head is always the one that tries and keeps you safe and still. and doesn't want to take. And then the heart is the kind of unleashing something.
Yeah, yeah.
And the joy when you talk through your heart, you can see it. I certainly saw it on David's face.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, 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 yeah. And the question, how often do we use, I mean, each center? So there are 3 centers of intelligence, and we often use many of them. David, were you saying something? Okay. Okay.
As Francesca mentioned, I think it's we need all 3. When you take a decision, all 3 come into play.
Absolutely.
And we were discussing, Francesca and I were saying that what's interesting is the head keeps you in your safe environment because it's a rational part of it.
Yes.
And then you have your heart, which gives you the courage, in fact, to push you forward, in fact, to take that decision.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
So it's the heart that gives you the courage. Yeah.
Yeah.
Manu, did you want to say something?
Yeah.
Thank you, David.
Yeah, for me, it was kind of interesting. What I say when I'm touching my head and heart and gut is very different. And this is the first time I've observed it that way. And then the second piece for me was that typically my head is where it gets me stuck. So I think you gave the example of a car tire getting stuck. And typically I notice that if nobody is around, I'm feeling stuck. That means I know that I'm in my head. So I need to switch to my heart or gut to see where the other ideas are going to come
from. Yeah, thank you. So switching from your head to your heart.
Yeah, in the Eastern thinking, there is an element of a friend called Saki, which is literally means friend, and then there is the Sakshi, which means witness. So you can switch between the 3. Yourself in your stuckness, and go to your friend, so to speak, and go to your witness, and then switch around.
Okay, so the friend and the witness, and the third one is
yourself, your natural, your default self, your ego or persona.
Wow. Okay. Okay. Amazing. Okay. I'd love to learn more from that from you, Mani. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay. So anyone else would like to share their experience on that?
Yeah. So
Please.
I've while talking about it, I've realized that it's something that I've been doing unconsciously, and didn't actually realize that there was an actual system to it. So like whenever I'd be taking decisions or whatever, it would be look at it with the brain, the logical side, the rational side of it, and as David said as well, then the heart gives you the courage to kind of go forward with it. And in my case, in some decisions, it's like look at all the rational side with the brain, and then just have the gut feeling to just why not do it? What's the worst that could go wrong? Or live a little. You might learn something from your mistake. So yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. Thank you, Reese. Thanks. And Chandra, I haven't said hello to you yet. Hi, welcome.
Hi.
Hi. Hi. Okay. So I'll continue with this. So the next part is looking at the 3 centers of intelligence. So a few have already mentioned that this is really inquiring into the 3 centers of intelligence. So the head is gathering information, generating ideas. There's a mental processing. There's a rational analysis, like Ray said, the planning. And the productive uses is objective analysis, astute insight, productive planning. But the counterproductive side is you sometimes get stuck into overanalysis and projecting worst case scenarios or over planning. Then from the heart side, the heart is about experiencing feelings, the emotional relating to yourself, like the courage that David talked about, emotional relating to others as well, being sensitive to others. The productive uses is the empathy or compassion, the authentic relating. The unproductive uses can be manipulation, emotional manipulation, playing roles, and being oversensitive. So I'm sure you can see elements of these in people that you know. And then the gut is all about movement, the physical sensations, action or inaction, being in control. The productive uses is taking effective action, being steadfast, and just knowing what's right. You don't have to think about it, you know, to inquire, you just know, this instinctive knowing. And then the unproductive is excess action. So this can lead to a burnout, or it could also be passivity or reactivity. So these are all the kind of functions of the three centers of intelligence. And this is one of the things that the Enneagram allows you to do, is being aligned with all three centers of intelligence and actually using the three centers of intelligence. So often we predominantly focus on one. So I'm just going to launch a poll. So let me stop share, and I'm going to, someone ask a question? Yeah, okay. So I'm going to launch a poll here. So which sense of intelligence resonates with you the most? Ten of you. Okay. So most of you. Okay, so I'll just end the poll there. So can you see the results? So 30% is from the head, 50% the heart. Can you see that? Oh, there you go. Can you see that?
Yes.
Yeah. And 20% instinct. Okay, so a lot of heart-centered people here. Lovely. Okay. So what I'll do now is continue. Any questions on that? I'll continue on describing the different centers of intelligence. Any questions before I go on?
It's
What
sort of
do you do?
sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry, Chandra, carry on.
Yeah, I was just asking, what do you do if either the heart or the instinctive is not paired with the head? You know,
Okay.
like you've got several decisions you want to take.
Okay.
You're indecisive.
So just like you did in that little exercise, inquire into. So if I were to inquire into my heart center, what would that tell me? If I were to inquire in my gut center, what would that tell me? Just inquire into, if you realize that you've become a lot in your head, inquire into your heart, inquire into your gut. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
So, okay, so I'll just share this now. So, so the Enneagram is divided into three triads. So there's the body center, the heart center, and the head center. So 8, 9s, and 1 is the body center. The heart center is 2, 3s, and 4s. And the head center is 5, 6, and 7s. And we are biologically prone to gravitate to one of these centers of intelligence. And so each center of intelligence has a particular way or a particular internal strategy for getting needs met. And this was a kind of like survival strategy as we were growing up as children. So I'll describe how each center of intelligence does that, and they're very distinctly different. So the body center, did someone ask a question? No? Okay. So with the body center, the eight nines and ones, they want autonomy. They want things to go according to how they wish things to go on. So they want autonomy. Whereas, and in that process, somehow or other, they kind of like forget themselves. It's a self-forgetting process. In the heart centers, the heart center types, they want attention for connection. And they do that by portraying a certain image. I'll talk about that more in a moment. Whereas the head centers, they want security, and they want security for survival, and they do it in three distinct ways. So I'll start with the eight. The eight is called a challenger, and the eight, how they do that is they control for autonomy by taking action. And they do that because they want to prevent themselves from appearing vulnerable or weak. So what they do is they take action, they control the context, environment, or people so that they are not perceived as weak or vulnerable. Whereas the nines have a very different way of taking control. They take control by avoiding. So they kind of like withdraw. And the reason they do that is because they don't want conflict. They don't want harmony. They're just trying to maintain peace. And they avoid conflict as a way of controlling. So it's that, as you can see, if you have in a team, if you have an 8 and 9 working together, there could be this potential disconnection, depending on the level of health of the person. Okay. So the ones are called the perfectionists or the reformer. How they do that is they want autonomy by denying reality by setting rules and standards, because they don't want to appear bad or immoral. So they counteract that by really abiding by rules, so they don't make mistakes, and they're always right. They have a moral standards. So that's how they actually control their reality. Now, the image types. The first image type is the 2. They want attention by fulfilling the needs of others. So they want to be needed, and they do that by going out and being helpful and generous, and will fulfill the needs of other people. So and that is because that they don't perceive that they have any needs themselves. It's other people that who need, and I don't. Because for them, if they are needy, then they're not worthy. They don't have any value. Okay, so their value is to give rather than to receive. Whereas the threes, they want attention because somehow or other they perceive that if they're not the best person or the most respected, then they're not worthy. They're not worthy of connection. So they gain that attention, having this image of being the best and most respected, the person who achieves the most. So they are the people who are always focusing on KPIs and getting results and fast and effective. So these are the people who are able to do that, and often at the expense of their own emotions. The 4s, they want attention by appearing to be different, because they have this perception that they are deficient and I'm a nobody. And because I'm a nobody, I'm going to be abandoned. So they portray this image of being someone different and unique and creative so that they can get that connection. Okay. And the next triad is the head triad. And these are the people who want security. So the fives, they gain security by gaining knowledge, because for them, if I don't know enough, I can't survive in the world. So these are the people who are always striving to know things, to research things. Often they are in academia, and it's so important for them to know, because if they don't know, then they can't survive. And all of these I'm telling you often is very unconscious. I mean, I wasn't conscious of this in me when I first read this. And the sixes, they perceive that if they don't have support from people and the environment, they can't survive. So these are the people who are often planning for worst case scenarios, and have a plan A and a plan B, and a contingency plan and a contingency plan for the contingency plan, and they can really be very good at risk assessment and preventing the worst from happening. And then the sevens, they gain security by stimulation. So they're always the people who have the bright ideas. They have loads of balls juggling in the air, loads of plates spinning. They're always high energy and always going for new things. And for them, they can't survive if there isn't that enthusiasm, that there isn't that stimulation, because they believe somehow or other that they're incomplete. And for them to be complete, they need new things to complete them. And if they don't get that, they are totally bored and in pain. So being bored for a seven is totally in pain. Okay. So this is the different strategies, and you can see that if you in a team, if you have all of these people together, there is a potential of affecting the team dynamics. I will go into the strengths of each type as well. Okay, so each type, each center of intelligence also has an emotion related. So this emotion normally comes about when the needs are not perceived, the needs are perceived not met. Okay, so for the instinctive, it's anger. So if needs are not met, the anger comes up. Sadness for the 2, 3s, and 4s, and fear for the 5, 6, and 7s. And they deal with this emotion in very different ways. So for example, for the 8s will express anger. They don't have any problem with their own anger. They'll just express it. It's fine. I'll deal with it. That's it. And then they're calm. So these are the people who can, it's like fireworks, bam, 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 and then it stopped. And they're fine. And they perceive that everyone else should be fine. Whereas the 9s are very different. The 9s will repress. They will repress it. They fall asleep to their own anger. So I have a friend that she told me that she had this really big argument with her husband, and her husband was really angry and she was really angry. And at one moment in time, she was so angry, she said, I can't deal with this anymore. I'm going away, I'm going to sleep, and I'll come back. So she went off and she went to sleep, which made her husband even more angry, but she was fine. She just went to sleep and came back afterwards. So the 9s, they fall asleep to their own anger. Whereas the 1s, they suppress anger because being angry is not the moral way to do it. It's not the right way of doing it. So they will suppress the anger, and it appears through being irritated and resentful. So that's how their anger comes about. Whereas the twos, they will actually suppress their sadness, because I can't be sad, because then I won't be able to help others. So they kind of like push it down. They're aware they push it down, and they'll just push it down. So the threes, they repress, because I can't deal with the sadness, because the sadness will just prevent me from achieving. It will prevent me from being effective, being efficient. So I'm just going to repress it. And that's what the threes do. Whereas the fours will just, depending what their three subtypes of the fours, depending what subtype, they can just easily express their sadness. So often these are people who are melancholy, and some of the fours, they do their best work when they're sad, because that's the way they express their creativity and uniqueness. Whereas the fives are probably the type in the Enneagram that will repress the emotions the most. They actually detach from the emotions. And this is their survival mechanism, because if they detach, they can survive better. They can survive the world better if they just detach from the emotions. And the sixes, they express. So often sixes, depending what subtype, often sixes are these anxious types. They're always kind of like, you can tell that they're planning something, they're thinking about something, they're planning for the worst case scenario, and that's how they express their fear. Whereas the sevens, they will suppress their fear, because that will get in the way of being excited and being positive and really being the person who bring life to the party. So they will just suppress their fear. So as you can see, there are very different ways of how the different types actually deal with emotions. So I'm sure some of this will resonate with you, or you can see some of this resonating with people that you know. So I'm going to show you one more slide before I just ask if there are any questions. So I'll finish with this. So each type has an inner strategy of getting their needs met. And again, they do this in very different ways. So with the eights will demand. They will demand for their needs. They have no qualms in, hey, I need this and I need it now. And they'll demand it. Whereas the nines will withdraw. I don't need anything, I'm fine. Whereas wands will earn it. They'll work hard and earn what they need. Same with the twos, they'll work very hard to gain their needs. The threes will say, I need this because I need to achieve this, and you need to give it to me. So really demanding. As the fours will withdraw, because if I'm not this image of being unique, and I'll just withdraw to myself because I don't need it. And the fives will withdraw because they are conserving their energy, they're conserving their time. So I withdraw because I can't deal with it. It's just take too much energy. With a six, they will earn it. They'll work hard to support people, to support the environment, just to earn their needs. And the sevens will demand it because they need it to be stimulating. Okay, so just before we go into the next part, do you have any questions, or how does this resonate with you?
Wyman?
Yes, David?
I have one question. Can you please clarify what's the difference between suppress and...
Yes.
Yeah.
So suppress is about pushing down the emotions so that it's just on the surface. So suppressing. Whereas repressing is that you repress it so much it goes into your unconscious. You don't even know that you're doing it. So for example, the nines, they'll repress their anger, that they're not even aware that they are angry. Whereas the ones, they will suppress. They're aware they're angry, but it's not good. It's not moral. It's not right to be angry. So they'll just suppress it. Whereas the nines will repress it until they're unconscious of it. Okay.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, makes sense. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
Women, this money. On the two charts, there seems to be a pattern, which is one is suppress, whereas the patterns seem to be very different. So if you can address that when you get a chance.
So the patterns of the types.
Yeah, no,
So,
the suppress, express, and repress. This is.
Yeah, so it goes in triads. So in each triad, there's a repress, suppress. So each triad has that pattern. Yeah. I'll talk a bit more about those triads in a minute when I go into the team dynamics, and perhaps that will clarify things for you. Yeah. Auntie, you wanted to ask something?
Yes, actually, it's close to what Manikantan said. I was just reflecting why it is like for the 1 and the 2s, it is earns, and then for the 3 and 7, it is demand and demand. So I was thinking, is this the same? Actually, whatever quadrant are you in? But then you just explained that there is something else related to it, actually. Yes, thanks.
Yeah. To be honest, I don't know. I don't know how the pattern goes like that. Yeah. And Francesca said that there may be also an extroversion and introversion overlay. Yeah, perhaps. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? No. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is going into the looking at the ego. And what is the ego? So I have this little clip of talking about the ego. So I'll just play this for you. It's going to be 6 minutes, but I think it really explains what the ego is. So I'll just play this for you.
What is the ego? The ego is a self-generated identity consisting of every belief we believe about who and what we are. This includes our personality, our talents, and our likes and dislikes. The ego is what keeps us locked away in our minds in an endless cycle of chatter, separated from the present moment. It is the identity created and reinforced by the story we tell ourselves. Our stories are, however, just that, stories. They do not make up who we are. Eckhart Tolle says, the most common ego identifications have to do with possessions, the work you do, social status and recognition, knowledge and education, physical appearance, special abilities, relationships, personal and family history, belief systems, and often nationalistic, racial, religious, and other collective identifications. None of these are you. While the ego is an aspect of the human condition, it is not the true essence of who we are. When we operate from ego, we are generally obsessed with right and wrong, blame and shame. We are not acting from a loving place, but a judgmental place. We are not acting from a place of how can I serve or how can I give? Rather, what do I get and how do I look? Learning to identify the traits and behaviors of the ego, and then working to consciously make a different choice will drastically change your life. Here are 3 tips on managing your ego to create a more peaceful, loving life. Number 1, stop taking things personally. The ego loves to get offended. It loves to feel wounded, and it thrives on pain and conflict. When we choose to be offended over things, we are actively choosing to allow the ego to take hold of our lives and create pain. In order to disassociate from this decision and make a different choice, we must recognize that love is our natural state. Humans actually want to connect and feel joy, not misery. If someone does or says something that makes you feel any negative emotion, you have 2 choices. You can react and engage in conflict, or you can recognize that the trigger within you is an opportunity for your own growth. You can choose to recognize that anything negative said or done from another is likely a projection of their own ego. Don't waste your energy on ego battles. Save it for love and service. Number 2, forgive. The ego loves being right. It sustains itself in this way. The problem is, it also keeps you from doing what you need to do to move closer to love and truth. The ego is sort of like a weed in this way. It may have pretty flowers for your inner garden, but if left unattended, it will choke out all of your other plants and leave you in a big mess. When you forgive, you allow your heart to open, and you separate from the need to be right and instead choose love. This is functioning from your true self. Forgive others and forgive yourself too. Number 3, let go and observe. Let go of trying to be right, trying to win, trying to be seen, trying to be heard. Instead, observe. The ego wants to prove itself and jump up and down to gain love and validation. Our higher self doesn't need validation. Our higher self knows that it is love. By becoming aware of the ego and its need to be seen, heard, and acknowledged, you open up space to be seen and heard without expectation. By observing without expectation, you then see things as they are. You see people as they are, rather than through a projected sense of lack, because they are not matching up to your ego's demands. In this space, there is also an opportunity to sit back and observe as to who or who is not functioning from a place where they can offer themselves up emotionally to give love, acceptance, adoration to you. This means we let go of controlling people in an attempt to have our needs met. This is freedom. Eckhart Tolle said, the moment you become aware of the ego in you, it is strictly no longer the ego, but just an old conditioned mind pattern. Ego implies unawareness. Awareness and ego cannot coexist. There is no denying that the ego serves its purpose, but when the ego becomes the dominant process of your mind, you fall out of alignment with your true self. With practice, you can learn how to manage your ego better and create a life that feels more peaceful, loving, and authentic. As Gandhi said, when the ego dies, the soul awakens. Let your ego die a little more each day, so your own soul can awaken and grow, so your freedom and joy can grow, so your peace can come forward. Bless your life by letting go of your ego. What is the ego? Ego.
Okay, so what do you take away from that clip? Lots of richness in there. What do you take away?
I would say Wyman's self-awareness.
Mm.
Many things that sometimes we are not aware.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
For me, it was powerful when they said that if you take the ego away, you make space for the real, for the good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Francesca, thanks.
Yeah, I think, it's a wonderful reminder and about the question, where can I do this from a place of love? And it was like a smack. It was good. Yeah. It's gorgeous. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Anyone else? So I'm just very conscious of time. I'm always overrunning what I anticipate to do. So let me just do this. So just to summarize this, the takeaways here, that there is a higher self, a true self, and the things that actually prevent us often is the narratives that we have, about ourselves that really hold us back. And we all have this unconscious human conditioning that we have habituated in us in terms of our thinking and feeling that really drives us unconsciously. And just as Auntie said, it's just this having this awareness and observation in us. And Manny talked about this observer self, so that you can actually get to your true self. Okay. So it's really, one of the things about the Enneagram is really enabling the unconscious to be conscious. So often in our unconscious mind, there's so many things that are kind of under the iceberg, and we are only seeing the tip of the iceberg, that are our beliefs, emotions, habits, and it's about bringing the unconscious to our consciousness. And the Enneagram is a tool that enables that for us. So that's Auntie, can you read this? So this is the shadow. The Enneagram allows us to get to know our shadows. So Auntie, if you could read this.
Yes. So the shadow is that part of us we fail to see or know. The shadow is simply the whole unconsciousness.
Yeah. That's the definition of a shadow. And another, so the Enneagram actually allows us to integrate our shadow. So often, one of them, perhaps the unresourceful ways, is to kind of like put away our shadows, but it's actually integrating our shadows, facing it, accepting it, and integrating it, and using that for our growth. So identifying the unconscious patterns and tendency, owning our blind spots, and through that actually feeling the pain of that, and to actually use that, the energy in that pain, to actually for our own learning, being open to feedback from others, because often in our blind spots we don't see it. Being open to feedback, just like when I was in my car, I got feedback from other people that allowed me to get unstuck, making what is conscious unconscious. And often what happens is, in teams you get collective shadows. So not only do you have your own shadow, you bring your own shadow, which then brings the builds a collective shadow, not only in your team but in the organization. So Omi, could you read this?
Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate.
Yeah.
Carl Jung.
Yeah. So what is your fate? Because you have control over your fate, not your ego. Okay. So often shadow work is about letting go of who you should be, who you perceive you should be, so that you can actually be who you actually are, so that you can be your true self. So one of the things that the Enneagram allows you to do is for you to get to know your ego self. And once you know your ego self, then you can actually kind of like work on it, so that you're not so much in the ego self, so that you can actually be who you are. And often people think that the shadow is kind of like the dark side of us, but actually the shadow can also be the qualities and potentials that you haven't used before, that you don't know. So we call that the golden shadow. So the Enneagram allows you not only to know the shadow that you've repressed or suppressed, but also for you to unleash the potentials that you're not aware of, or perhaps even afraid of getting to know that part of yourself. So it's the golden shadow. Okay. So for me, the Enneagram has been like the hero's journey. So I started the adventure, I had a calling, and that was the normal world. And then I went into unknown territory. And that was really getting to know my ego structure, the shadows. And there were trials and uncomforts and certain emotions and sadness. And then there was the rebirth. And once you get the rebirth, and you come back, and it's kind of like going, having this journey in cycles. So for me, it was like journeying to a deep and awakening to your true self. So that for me is how the Enneagram is this hero's journey for me. So the next part, I'm going to go into the different, describe very briefly the different types of the Enneagram. So let me get this. Okay. Yeah. Before I go on, just remember to have self-compassion. When you get, sometimes when you get to know your Enneagram type, you'll discover things that you perhaps don't quite like about yourself. And just remember the self-compassion for yourself. Okay, so having compassion to your own shadow. Okay. So we'll start off with type 1. So, so the type 1 is called the reformer or the perfectionist. And these are the people who are principled, purposeful, self-controlled, hardworking, highly detailed, pragmatic, quality-orientated, organized, responsible, self-disciplined, have excellent manners, and will work on self-improvement. So I remember when I did an Enneagram session with a group of 20 people, and I sent out codes to do the assessment, and I offered to do debriefing session. The person who was the first person to complete their assessment and to make an appointment was a 1. So she was so efficient in doing that. Okay, so I have a little video, and this video has been produced by the Coaching Room, which is a coaching organization in Australia, and they have beautiful videos which describe each Enneagram type. So here we go.
Type 1 is the reformer. Type 1 personalities are conscientious, ethical, and ordered, with a strong sense of right and wrong. Type 1s are drawn to the role of teachers, crusaders, and advocates for social change. They strive to improve the world and often take responsibility for all of humanity in their thinking. 1s are driven by standards, and with a strong superego, they naturally critique and judge firstly themselves and then others. Afraid to make mistakes, 1s are driven to perfection by the frame that they're deeply flawed and they need to prove to the world that they are not. The highest expression of the type 1 is wisdom, discernment rather than judgment, nobility, and the ability to be realistic. Healthy type 1s are the embodiment of integrity. They literally lead by example, not because they have to, but because they can.
Okay, okay. So that went a bit fast. So just pause that so you can see the core fear and the desire of the 1. Okay. Oops. Okay. So I'm going a bit fast because I'm just conscious of time. Are you, those of you who can stay on, are you okay to stay on for another 10 minutes? Just so that we can finish this part. If not, then we'll send you the recording. Is that okay with everyone? Yeah, okay. So if you can't, don't worry, you can catch up with the recording. Okay. So the 2s. The 2s are called the helper. They're friendly, they're warm, they're people-orientated, responsive, thoughtful, helpful, nurturing, generous, compassionate, and in tune with others, intuitive in caring for others and knowing their needs. So here's the video.
Type 2, the helper. Caring, interpersonal, self-sacrificing, people-pleasing, and possessive. Type 2 personalities are empathetic, sincere, positive, and warm-hearted. Type 2s are friendly, generous, and utterly self-sacrificing, sentimental, and flattering of others. 2s mean well in their efforts to help and are driven to please others and find themselves doing things for others in order to be needed. 2 struggle with possessiveness and with acknowledging their own needs. Healthy type 2s are the embodiment of care. Care for self first enables true care and giving to others then unconditionally. For fear of being unwanted, unworthy of being loved. Desire to be loved, to receive love for their service.
Okay, so that's type 2. So we're going on to the type 3 now, and this is called the achiever. They are the people who are productive, focused, goal-oriented, confident, result-driven, and that have a can-do attitude. So some of the examples is Obama, Bill Clinton, Michael Jordan, Oprah Winfrey. Okay, I'll just show you the video now.
Type 3, the achiever. Image conscious, success and outcomes orientated, pragmatic, adaptable and highly driven. Type 3 personalities are self-assured, attractive and often charming. As type 3s are very ambitious, they will often pursue success at any cost, except being disliked by others. 3s can be overly concerned with their image and what others think of them. 3s typically have problems with competitiveness and the need to be the best at whatever they do. Healthy type 3s are the embodiment of authenticity. They are self-accepting and are selfless role models who inspire others. Core fear of being worthless, negated. Desire to feel valued and worthwhile by others. Well known.
Okay. So type 4. So type 4 are they're called the romantics or the individualists, and they are profoundly expressive, highly introspective, sensitive, emotionally honest, and authentic. So people like Freddie Mercury, Prince, Johnny Depp are some of the examples of type 4s. Also Lady Gaga probably is a type 4 as well. Okay.
Type 4, the individualist. Highly creative, expressive, dramatic, self-absorbed and melancholy. Type 4 personalities are creative and emotionally honest. They try to build identity around the perception of themselves as being somewhat different or unique. 4s are thus self-consciously individualistic. Type 4s tend to see themselves as different from others, and so they try to create a persona based on differences. Type 4s resent that others seem to have it better or are altogether in comparison to themselves. 4s typically have problems with melancholy, self-indulgence and self-pity. Healthy type 4s are inspired and highly creative. They are able to renew themselves and transform their experiences. For fear that they are without identity, they can't find it, always looking, or personal significance and value. Desire to find or create their identity and their significance by looking and searching for it. Well, no.
Okay, any questions before we continue? Is everyone okay? Just looking at the messages. Okay. Okay, so we'll go on to the type 6 now. Type 5. So type 5s are called the observers or the investigators. And these are the people who are observant with perceptiveness, insight. They're mentally alert and curious. They love learning. They're often the people who are experts in their field. They're independent thinkers. They're innovative, inventive, highly imaginative, and they produce valuable original ideas and bold works. And they're often the people who are visionary. So people like Bill Gates, Stephen Hawking. Okay. This is the video.
Type 5, the investigator. withdrawn, cerebral, perceptive, innovative, secretive, and isolated. Type 5 personalities like to observe people, situations, and events without the burden of fully experiencing it, in case they are found to be lacking in knowledge. As a result, 5s are able to take in and learn information through intense concentration and focus. Type 5s can easily develop complex ideas and skills. Type 5s essentially fear that they don't have enough inner strength to face life, so tend to withdraw, to retreat into safety and security of their mind, where you can mentally prepare for your emergence into the world. As a result, Type 5s typically have problems with eccentricity and isolation. Healthy Type 5s are visionary pioneers, often ahead of their time, and able to see the world in an entirely different and innovative way. Core fear: being incapable, without knowledge, stupid, and overwhelmed by others. Desire: to be capable, knowledgeable, and competent.
Okay. So I'm wondering what type you're thinking you are. Okay, so type 6. So type 6 is called the loyalist, or sometimes a skeptic. And they're really good at risk assessing, planning possibilities and outcomes. They're loyal, reliable, committed, insightful, persevering, a good problem solver. The people like Princess Diana or Winnie Mandela are examples of type 6. Now, type 6 are really good at worst case scenarios thinking. So if I, for example, and Maurice will laugh at this, if I were to choose a pilot, I would choose a type 6 pilot, because they would be really good at assessing all that could go wrong, and I'll be safe in their hands. And Maurice is nodding. Okay, so this is the video.
Type 6, the loyalist. Committed, security orientated, responsible, anxious, and suspicious. Type 6's personalities are loyal, hardworking, responsible, and trustworthy. 6s make excellent problem solvers, as they can foresee challenges, future orientated, and can foster support and cooperation, though 6s can also become defensive and anxious. At the core of the 6's personality is fear or anxiety. 6s are most often cautious because they think in terms of worst case scenario. Type 6s can become reactive, defiant, and rebellious. 6s typically have problems with insecurity, self-doubt, and suspicion. Healthy Type 6s are internally stable and self-reliant, bringing people together in service of the collective anchor. For fear of being left without support or guidance, desire to become secure and have support.
Okay. So type 7. So type 7s are called the enthusiasts. They're highly energetic, versatile, always excited, having exciting things going on, adventurous, spontaneous, enthusiastic, engaging, curious, multi-talented, quick and agile minds. So people like Jim Carrey, Robin Williams, Steven Spielberg, JFK are some examples. So if you want your party to come alive, invite a 7.
Type 7, the enthusiast. Busy, extroverted, option-seeking, spontaneous, inquisitive, and often scattered. Type 7 personalities are optimistic, versatile, and spontaneous. 7s are future-orientated and restless, and are generally convinced that the grass is greener on the other side. 7s constantly seek new and exciting experiences, are quick thinkers with a great deal of energy, and make lots of plans. 7s are extroverted, multi-talented, creative, and open-minded. 7s typically have problems trusting themselves and their decisions, double-guessing themselves and others. As such, they can become scattered in their own thinking and attention. Healthy type 7s focus their talents on a single worthwhile goal while becoming appreciative, joyous and satisfied with life as it is. Core fear of being trapped, deprived and in pain. Desire to be energized and entertained, to have their desires fulfilled.
Okay. So this is the type 8. The type is called the challenger. The tenacious, robust, natural born leaders. They'll just take charge. Strong and trustworthy. They're self-confident. They're decisive, assertive. They have strong will. They're action-oriented with a can-do attitude. So Nelson Mandela is an example of an 8. So I'm in a team, and the team leader, the team that I'm in, is a type 8, and I was talking to her about some of the team dynamics in our team, in one of the team members. And when I told her that, the type 8 team leader, she just said, well, we just need to give feedback, straightforward and to the point. I was thinking, oh my God, yeah, this is a type 8, just taking action, direct action. Whereas me, I was thinking, oh my God, what would the person think? Would they be offended and things like that? Whereas she was just saying, just give feedback. So this is a type 8, a very type 8 behavior.
Type 8, the challenger. Controlling, domineering, self-confident, decisive, strong-willed and confrontational. Type 8 personalities are self-confident, assertive, decisive, practical, tough-minded and energetic. 8s can be protective, resourceful, straight up and decisive, but can also be self-centered and dominating. 8s believe they must control their environment and people in order to get what they want. As a result, 8s tend to have a problem with anger and with allowing themselves to be open and vulnerable. Healthy type 8s are self-mastering, caring, collaborative, open-minded and very protective of the vulnerable and the less fortunate. Core fear of being controlled by others and out of control. Desire to protect themselves from others and to be in control.
Okay. So this is the last type, and this is the type 9, which is called the peacemaker. The peacemaker is deeply receptive, open, serene, inclusive, patient and gentle, genuinely kind, optimistically reassuring, supportive, and has a calming and healing, harmonious influence. And Queen Elizabeth II is an example of a type 9. Okay.
Type 9, the peacemaker. Nice, easygoing, agreeable and complacent. Type 9 personalities are optimistic and open and will often put others' needs ahead of their own in order to keep the peace. 9s essentially feel the need for peace and harmony and want things, events, people, processes to go as smoothly as possible and without conflict. 9s can lead active social lives, but nevertheless tend to remain to some degree checked out or not fully involved, as if to insulate yourself from threats to your peace of mind. As a result, 9s have problems with complacency, reluctance, and stubbornness. Healthy type 9s are affable, open, friendly, and knowledgeable. They are natural facilitators and are able to easily bring together people and heal conflicts. Core fear of loss and separation, desire to be loved, to be at peace and enjoy life.
Okay, so that in the whistle stop tour is the description of each type. So do you have any questions? I know we've run over. Any questions? Which type resonates with you?
Wyman, excuse me, can you show the slide for type 1 again, please? Can you do that?
Yeah, okay, yeah, okay, let me.
I've done the test and I know I'm the type 1. I was always looking at it at the negative part, but when you said integrity and ethical, I said, okay, I like that.
Oh, okay, let me just
Only the slide for type 1.
Okay, yeah.
And
Oops.
oh,
There.
Gandhi and Hillary Clinton. Okay, yes, thanks.
Do you see yourself there?
Yes, especially the perfectionist one. This is one frame I need to work on. But when you said ethical integrity and other things, I said, okay, that's good.
Yes. Yeah. So any questions? David says, of course, he's a type 9. Yeah. So, okay. So, Reese, David's asking you, are you a type 6?
Yeah. I can definitely relate to type 6.
Yeah.
Spending a lot of time in my head planning and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I can also relate to a few others as well. So like, does one person have to stick to one type, or can he relate to or see himself in a few others?
Yeah, normally you're predominantly one type. However, you will have what we call overlays of from your caregivers and from your environment. So for example, my mum is a type 6, so I have a lot of elements of a type 6. My dad is a 9, so I have lots of elements of a 9 as well. So it really comes down to your unconscious motivation. What is the thing that really drives you to do what you do? That's the way that you can really discover your type. And sometimes it does take really become aware of the drivers in you, and it does take sometimes a bit of time for you to really discover that. To kind of like it's like the layers of an onion, the motivations really getting to the core motivation. Yeah.
Well, sorry to take up more time.
Chandra, which type do you see yourself? Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Reese.
I'll be definitely a 9.
9, okay. So you're joining David then? Okay. Oh, lovely. Okay, good. Okay. So, Reese, did you want to say something?
Yeah. Just to add on to what I said, and with the bit you added with the overlays and stuff, I can definitely see myself in the 1, 9, 5, and 6, but mainly having the traits from the type 6.
Okay.
So,
1, 9, 5, and 6. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I used to be a lot more expressive of like an 8, and be more argumentative and stuff, but I feel like now I'm a lot more just can't be bothered and stay in my corner kind of person. So
okay. Yeah. Okay.
There's that as well.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for sharing. So David, you say that you're welcome to the 9 Club. Actually, that's one of the things that I'm thinking of doing is getting types together so that they can actually share and getting these kind of like groups together so that you can actually share experiences for how you deal with your fixations. Yeah. So I haven't heard from Vidya, and Anjali, Anne, and Omi. Which type resonated with you?
In my case, I think it's a bit of everything.
Okay, yeah, and you're very right. We have all the 9 personalities within us. Absolutely, yeah. But Anne, which type resonated with you?
Yeah, very similar. I feel like there's so many things in so many areas. Yeah. And also, to be very honest, like I think I've changed a lot in the last, let's say, 2 years. Like finding myself. So it's still like often there's some old things coming up, and then the new self would rather say, no, I'm in this corner. So I find it a bit, difficult to say which one. I have to take that test and see what comes up.
Yes. Yeah. And how about Omi? Okay, I'm not sure whether and Vidya, I don't know whether she's still cooking. Okay.
I'm here, Wyman.
Okay, Vidya. Okay, which type resonated with you?
I think predominantly 9, but then a bit of 3 as well.
Okay. Okay, nice. So it is a journey to discover what type you are. Yeah. Okay. So I'm very conscious of time. Thank you for staying on. I've run over my time. So perhaps just one takeaway from you, concluding this. What's your main takeaway from today? You can either drop it into the chat box, or you can just open your mic and share. Sharpened. Curiosity sharpened. Wow. Okay. Okay. Observing the ego.
Sorry.
Auntie, yeah. Sure.
Yes, if I
Go
may,
ahead.
quickly actually. So it was a good session and a refresher for me, because like I said, I did it so long time back, and I wanted to be refreshed again. And the good thing is I always tend to see the negative side of being a type 1, but I could see that there are so many good things as well, and of course so many things to work on as well. And like I said earlier, this self-awareness is really important. Thanks for the session, really interesting.
Okay, great, thank you. And just to conclude, one of the main essence of the Enneagram, knowing your type will allow you to relax into your personality. So some people think the Enneagram will box people in. Actually, it's the opposite. Because you know that certain personality, you can actually relax into that personality so that you can use the other strengths of the other personalities in terms of your unleashing your potential. So it's actually going into the other strengths of the other personalities by relaxing in your own personality. So that's one of the main essence of the Enneagram. Yeah. So I'm afraid I wasn't able to talk about the team dynamics part. If you wish, I can schedule another quick session to cover that, perhaps another half an hour or an hour session. I can share that with you. I'll keep in touch with it and share that with you. Okay. So thank you very much, everybody. I'm very conscious I'm keeping your time. Thank you very much, and thank you for participating. Thank you.
Thank you, Emma.
Thanks. Bye.
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 Bye. Praise. Stay on.
Bye, the Twin Tower.
Yes, Twin Towers. You need to connect, you two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this is a start to it. So
yeah, it is. Yeah.
Everyone's been busy in their own corner.
Yeah.
Yes,
That's
exactly. Good. Yeah, quite busy.
And
bye, Tina.
Okay. Let me just stop the recording so we don't need to record this part.